All right, welcome to episode 4 of the Zesty Woodworking Alliance. Name, I think, is solidified at this point. I feel like once you hit to episode 4, you got to keep it, right?
Yeah, it's just that nothing seemed better, and now we're here.
And now we're here. And once you get to the 4th episode, you just can't change. There's no changes allowed ever. So, anyway, we are going to be talking about the end of the current environment, the end of this environment. I don't know the right way to phrase it because there is no name for what it is, but it's the end of this as we know it, as REM would say.
Yeah.
So, um, starting in 2026, for those that don't know, FFG will be moving on to the current slash legacy cycles, and that's going to become a whole big thing and all this excitement and whatever. And that's something we'll probably touch on in a future video of what's going to be happening and maybe some predictions and whatnot. But I thought it'd be fun if Daring Lime and I talked a bit about kind of the culmination of everything until now. And really just talking about the current environment and the good things and the bad things. And because D20 is a super negative person, I want to start with the bad. Very simply, the bad. I didn't have any fancy slideshows because I was just like, you know what? Let's keep this basic. Let's keep this simple tonight. So I don't know if I should just like dump on you all the negative things or you want to go back and forth on negative things and see what we agree on.
Well, I'm actually looking forward to the current environment. So I think that maybe you just dump all the negative things, and I'll just dump a wave of positivity after that.
Ooh, okay. Okay, that works. All right. So let me know if I'm crazy, right? Let me know if I'm crazy for these
Yeah,
negative
yeah. I'll
things. Okay.
I'll I'll try to understand where you're coming from, and then if I can't, I'll just say that you're off. You've lost it.
I've lost it. Okay, all right, that's fair. All right. So the end of this, right? The whole end of this cycle, one of the big things is the most obvious one that's been harped on a ton, and that's we're losing the older heroes essentially, right? As we know them. It leads to FOMO. It leads to a lot of buying, maybe regret that people might have that, like, oh, if I just had spent this money at that time, you know, I'd have everything by now. Or whenever they remake Captain America eventually or Doctor Strange, like let's just say hypothetically they're not as good. They probably will be as good or better. But let's say they're not, and you're like, if only if I spent $400 and gotten Captain America when he was on sale, then I wouldn't be having FOMO and
Four hundred
whatnot.
dollars when he's on sale. That's
Well,
a
wait
funny
until
way
the
of putting
future when
it.
he's 1,000. So to me, that's like the most obvious one and like the most basic one. And I feel like that's been just harped on by the community so much that I wasn't going to spend like a ton of time on that, but I'd be remiss to not like point that out. All right.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
that's just a little unfortunate to me because
Mm,
like that's one I don't think you're crazy. I don't
mm,
I think that because like I see it frequently on like my channel and just people's opinions when I do look at like current environment stuff of there's a huge amount of FOMO on it,
mm.
and like people are rushing to buy it, and then the people rushing to buy it drive up the prices, and then
Yeah.
it's just it's a really unfortunate mess. But at the same time, it's like also their choice to do that.
Mm,
But so I don't know. It's just really weird because like I personally wouldn't do that, but I also don't have just like 200 spare dollars to go buy a hero pack right now either.
yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
so it's just a really weird situation to me.
For sure. For sure. All right. So kind of going with that then. And this is now kind of speculation territory. So I may be off base with what I'm about to say for the next few things. Um, but as of right now, just because we don't know, this is what I'm going to put as a negative. Maybe it doesn't end up being a negative and everything works out. But one of the things I will see, what I'm going to assume won't happen, is direct support for older heroes. So what I mean by this is like when Valkyrie came out, she had a lot of Asgard cards that helped Thor out or helped Hulk out with like the 14 health thing or whatever. And those cards really felt like they were built to help Thor out. And I feel like we won't be getting anything like that. Now, that's not to say it won't happen, right? It probably will indirectly happen because it's just a card will happen to work with it and whatever. But like that type of card, like even some of the shield stuff that we're seeing now, which does help, shield heroes from back in the day, or I should say, really prep cards that help like Black Widow, they really felt like they were geared kind of toward Black Widow because there weren't that many prep heroes to begin with. That it feels like we won't get that support anymore. So with the end of 2025, because we should get one more cycle, so whatever the next cycle is, with the end of that, it feels like it's almost gonna be like encapsulate like whatever the heroes are is what they are. There might be some current environment later in the future that happens to help them out, but probably like not directly, kind of like what I was saying with prep cards and whatnot.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really interesting take on it because I see where you're coming from with that,
Mhm.
but I could also see the exact opposite happening to where now they're not balancing for the old heroes staying in balance, and then maybe there's just like broken combos that come out for the
Mm,
older heroes. But it probably won't be like it's not going to be intentional though,
right.
like you're saying. So like but like the thing that just happened with Thor with the Magneto pack where there's that leadership card that lets you now summon a minion to reduce an ally.
Yeah.
I don't think that that was I could be wrong here, but I don't think that that was like with Thor in mind,
Right. Right. Right.
but it feels like it was.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting things like that, but the like what you mentioned about the preparation stuff with like what is it, practice plan that's
Yeah. Yeah.
just so ridiculously good with Black Widow. And
Mhm.
like they released the Black Widow villain. I'm sure they're expecting people to play through the box with Black Widow. That seems like there's no way that it wasn't at least thought of in that process
Yeah.
of like, oh yeah, this will go amazing with Black Widow, which was really good for Black Widow.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
so yeah, I don't know. I'm still expecting things like Magneto helping Thor to continue happening, but I'm not expecting as many of those things that you're talking about. I
Yeah.
don't think there's gonna be like for your like invocation support for Doctor Strange or
Yeah. Right.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think there's gonna be that.
Yeah, I think there'll be accidental things, like you said. Like I consider that Magneto leadership card kind of like a quote unquote accidental card for Thor. Like it happens to work for him. They probably didn't have it in mind. Maybe they did. I'm going to assume that they didn't, and it just happens to work for him. But it works for other heroes too. So like that will still obviously happen. I just think like with certain things, and this actually leads into my next thing, with is no with the concern I have with older traits. So again, kind of going with Asgard and stuff like that, or Space Knight. We'll probably never see Space Knight be a thing because it was so goated the first time around. They did so much with it, and now it's just they can't touch it anymore. Um, but it makes me wonder with things like that. Like, all right, let's
Yeah.
take Ariel with Hone Technique, right? Like all the Ariel cards in the future, obviously not going to balance it with it. So they're going to do something different with Ariel. They're going to call it something different. Because and this is where I get kind of like I can see it both ways, where they say like they're not worrying about the balance of the legacy stuff, which I get. But in order to not worry about the balance of the legacy stuff, are they gonna like rename what Ariel is so that you don't get too crazy with things? And then like people are like, oh, this game is so easy, blah 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 blah, or they call it like flying instead or whatever. Or do they just go, no, we truly don't care if you get jacked up combos, cool, go have fun type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have no idea because like Ariel, I think I made a video a long time about it, but it's just such a weird trait with how it
Mhm.
works. Because in the beginning, it was this thing that a lot of characters could gain access to by doing something in the game, like Iron Man with his boots or Captain
Yeah.
Marvel with her cosmic flight. But then there was also no support at that time.
Hmm.
So it was like, okay, I have the aerial trait, and Captain Marvel's helmet gives me more defense now, and Iron Man can get like a little more damage on his stuff. But the aspects weren't really involved with that until later. And
Right.
then the premier aerial heroes in my head now are like Angel and Spectrum, who have it like just printed, and then
Oh,
like Nova, who just has it on the helmet, I think, if I remember right.
something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
So now Ariel is in this weird spot where now it's easy to get on those characters because it always felt super weird when Captain Marvel was like flying around in her picture and then
But
you're
she's really not.
grounded. Yeah, but then when I'm playing, I'm just like sprinting on the ground at people until I get my cosmic flight upgrade, or
Yep.
like I'm only flying in space or something. It was just such a goofy space, and then now it's really good.
Yeah.
And I wonder if like because it was so hard to get for those older heroes, relative to like it being printed on your identity,
Sure.
that the cards became more powerful or something.
Yeah,
It,
I don't know. Ariel could have like an entire video on it because it's really really weird. Because I remember before Spectrum came out, what I believe Spectrum was the first hero to have it printed on and just get it right. And like we were all like, oh, Spectrum's gonna be amazing because she just gets Ariel and like that's gonna be nuts. And I mean to a point it is if you play an Ariel deck worth her, but it was like this really weird time that like, oh, they're obviously protecting Ariel for some reason. Then you get like the hone technique, which I think was later on, if I remember correctly.
I
Um,
think it was Nova, but I could remember wrong because
yeah,
I
it was
didn't.
Nova.
I
It was
wasn't
Nova.
playing throughout the whole release order.
No, you're 100% right. So if it was Nova, then that puts what the next cycle. So I mean, yeah, they could have
Didn't
just
Star
started.
Lord come with Dive Bomb?
Yes, yes, he came
I
with
think Star
all the
Lord came with
aerial
Dive
cards.
Bomb, and then like later, Star Lord was all the aerial cards.
I think so. Hold
Totally
on.
forget that because like because his jet boots that make him go aerial. I don't play that card all that often.
Yeah, so Star Lord had Dive Bomb, Agile Flight, and Ever Vigilant. So he had the big aerial cards. And I remember like we got those and we're like, oh, these are crazy. And then Mad Titan Shadow happened with Spectrum. And we're like, she can just play those cards. Like that's nuts. And that was like the deck for the longest time with Spectrum with one whatever protection you were doing in those aerial cards. And then I guess Home Technique came out and people just like mind blown type of thing. So
Yeah, that makes sense to me. 'Cause, like, I wasn't around until like next evolution era, so I just like had all of these cards in a pile essentially.
yeah. So it just makes me wonder if like they're gonna touch on these old traits, if they're gonna switch it up. And again, this isn't necessarily like it could be a bad thing, is how I would classify this. It could be a bad thing depending on how they do it. It's not necessarily a bad thing. So that's why I'm putting it on the bad side because I do have a lot of positive things to talk about. So we gotta stack the negatives a little bit.
I would guess that they're not going to do that, and my
Okay.
reason being that based off the timeline of like when they announced it, they had to have been planning it for a little while. So I imagine Agents of Shield was developed with the current environment in mind.
Okay.
I would guess because I don't think that they would put out Agents of Shield and announce that the current environment is coming, and then also, by the way, Agents of Shield isn't part of it. I don't think they'd do that.
Wait,
And Nick Fury
do
does
you
gain
think
the aerial
Agents of
trait.
Shield is a part of the current environment?
I think that it's not going to be retired anytime soon in the current
Interesting.
environment.
I
I
don't
would
think
guess
it's
that
gonna be.
Agents of Shield is going to be in the current environment.
I'm gonna guess it's not. My guess, because we don't know, uh part of the bad, is that 2026 will be the start of it. It's not 3 years before 2026. I think 2026 is the start. I'm just basing that off of just pure speculation, and D20 may be
That
100%
would be
wrong.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah, I think it will be crazy. I think it's gonna be nuts. I
Yeah,
will I will
I
save
can't.
more of my future reasoning for when we do a video about future speculation, but there is a method to my madness with that, so we will save that for a future thing to tease episode 5 when it comes out. So make sure you all watch it. But yeah, I think it's going to start in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Maybe we
Let's-
can like make a tiny bet about it.
Ooh, yes, yes. D20 likes this idea. Okay, so another negative that I have is this is a very personal one to me. I think we're gonna get a lot of redos for a lot of heroes. They've already mentioned like Captain America and Doctor Strange, right? But realistically, in the next environment, like they're probably gonna redo Hulk because he's obviously a fan favorite. They'll probably redo Thor because he's a fan favorite. Like redo the fan favorites. Like it'd be weird if they weren't in print, right? Is the big argument. But with that being said, because she's not a fan favorite and not as popular, I don't think they'll redo Valkyrie. And this breaks my heart because people need to understand the greatness that is Valkyrie and understand how amazing she is. And they're going to change her and
Yeah,
it's not going to be great. And it's going to make me sad. So that's just a personal one, really.
I'm a huge advocate for a whole Asgard wave, though. Like,
That'd be sweet.
I would love an Asgard box where you have to go through like Ragnarok, and
Yeah.
like you have to or like what if it was like a crazy campaign where Ragnarok happens and like the winning the campaign is like saving the people before Surtur destroys it, but the
Mm,
final scenario like Surtur destroys Asgard
I
and
like
you
it.
can just like fight it however long you want, but you can't win.
Hmm.
That's a crazy idea. I don't know if they'll do that, but I think that would be awesome.
I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be really fun. I think there's fun things they could do. Do you think they would like revisit Guardians, like do another Guardians, right? Not necessarily like with Ronan, but like maybe a different Guardians villain. But would you redo the entire Guardians wave? I mean, I feel like you kind of have to, right?
It could be a Asgardians of the Galaxy wave
There you
because
go.
that's a real thing too. The
That's true.
Asgardians of the
Yeah.
Galaxy. I don't know.
That'd be interesting. That's some.
I would be so down for like a new version of Thor and Valkyrie, and then like the Warriors 3, and then like Star Lord and Gamora and Rocket and Groot and Drax come like help out, and there's just
Mm,
Ragnarok going on, and it's like total chaos.
I'm for
And
that.
like and like a Loki hero that's just like he helps a bit.
Yeah, it just like chills now and again.
I don't know. I would be so happy for that. So I hope that Valkyrie, I hope that that Valkyrie gets drug along into an Asgard wave with Thor. Is my hope.
Yeah, I hope that too. I don't see it happening. I see that they probably see the backlash to Valkyrie so much, and they're just like, you know what? We ain't gonna touch it. We ain't gonna touch it. But that makes me also worried too with like Star Lord. Like I think people respect Star Lord now and respect how good he is. But like the initial impression of Star Lord when he first came out, and even when you watch new players get into the game on Reddit or Facebook or whatever, they're like, Star Lord's not good. And then people are like, no, like he is. You're just gonna play him a bit differently. Like it's just weird to kind of wrap your head around. And I hope
Yeah.
that they see like the later comments that like people actually like Star Lord, the people that revisit him, he's actually pretty good versus just like the earlier on stuff, you know?
He was one of the first heroes I got.
Mm-hmm.
So like my progression through the game was not. I do not recommend this for people. But I went from core box to Adam Warlock
Perfect.
to Star Lord,
Yeah, don't do
and then
that.
I just like I just liked the game enough, and I liked Adam Warlock and Star Lord enough just as characters in the comics that I just dealt with losing until I figured it out. I lost so gloriously with Star Lord.
Oh yeah. It's always a great loss with Star
That's like
Lord.
the best thing about him. I love that feeling of like uh you deal yourself all the encounter cards, but your deck isn't quite good enough, and then you're like 4 damage short, and then you just get like lambasted by the villain, and it's just like the most like brutal losses
Oh
ever.
yeah. Yeah. Or you time it wrong because you think you have enough to knock him out and you're like one damage short. And all of a sudden I have like five encounter cards to deal with. I was like, well, I know how this is going to end because it's not going to go well.
Yeah, yeah. I hope the Star Lord can stay around because also his like looking at the current environment, he has a ton of damage available to him,
Mm,
but also he's very much dependent on the uh the aspect cards that are out
mm, yeah.
because his ability to reduce the cost by 3 if it's isolated to his own kit is balanced to slightly weak.
Right.
And then when you extend it into okay, I'm reducing Nick Fury by 3 and then I draw 3 cards and then I set up my economy and then I get like Avengers Mansion, Nick Fury,
Hmm.
Helicarrier, Nowhere on turn 1,
Yeah.
then it's like game over as long as I don't lose on turn 1.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're not likely to lose on turn 1 when you have a chump blocker and the villain hasn't built up either.
Yep.
So it's like the card pool. Star-Lord is like a great test hero to be like, what is the health of the card pool for
Mm,
the normal card pool plus Guardians? Because he'll absolutely break the game at any point that he can.
yeah. Yeah.
But if he's not breaking the game, then uh,
Some issues.
he's chilling.
All right. This is the last bad thing I have on my list, unless I think of something else really quick. But the last bad thing I have is I think personally there's a huge issue with the rule book in the state that it's in right now. And the reason being is because it is 90 pages or whatever. I don't even know how long it is. It's really long. It took you 7 days to read it or however long your video was. But it's a long rule book. And my biggest, so I've always said on my channel, the thing I care about the most is I want this game to be as simple as possible for people to get into, and I want them to feel good. I'm a firm believer if you feel good when you play, you're more likely to play the game again. It's really simple, but that's how I look at things. So I don't think there's any worse feeling in Marvel Champions than thinking you played the game 100% right, playing it, and then being like, huh, I wonder how that interaction works, and realize you totally messed it up because it's this crazy one off interaction in the rule book that contradicts another interact, whatever, right? I hate that feeling, and I hate it even more for people that are new into the game because that's the type of thing you just go, no, I'm not doing it, and you start house ruling things, which isn't bad, but then you kind of go down that rabbit hole, like, am I really playing correctly or not? Because I house ruled, and that's a whole nother discussion for another time. But anyway, my only issue with, as of now, they're saying that there is no core box, right? Or they're going to keep the core box, the current core box. If they're keeping the current core box, it means they're keeping the current rules. If they're keeping the current rules, all those issues transition over. Now, I think Tony did a pretty good job of 1.7, I guess the most recent one, right? I think it's
I think
1.7.
6.
Oh, 1.6. Okay. I'm like in my head, I'm already on 1.7. So he did such a good job with the most recent rulebook 1.6 of like cleaning a lot of things up, but there's just some things that are baked in that you can't really clean up. And I think if you carry over that rule book and that core box with those issues, you're going to keep running into the same issues moving forward instead of just having like a firm, clean, like this is a clean break. We're going to move forward to something else that's not different, but just like revamp the rules and like redo the whole rule section. Like I want 1.7 rules because this could be not an issue. 1.7 rules is like we're drastically overhauling it. But I feel like they've never done that in the past. They've just kind of like patchworked on top of old things that were issues and made rules on top of rules and whatnot. So that's honestly probably my biggest worry moving forward.
Yeah, that is hard because like I do think Tony did a really good job, especially with adding in like explicit timing charts. I think that's one of my favorite
Mm-hmm.
like additions to that of like all of these things are triggering at the same time, and then before there was these timing charts, it was just grim rule, I guess, and
Yeah.
make sure it's as horrible as possible for your experience.
Yeah.
And then now there's those timing charts, and I really enjoy that. And then also the wording on the cards, um, since like Next Evolution and Tony's been there has been very a lot more precise than a lot of
Yeah.
the older wordings that I see.
Mm.
So which is super nice. So I'm really glad he did that. Um, I totally agree though that it's it's a problem because the problem with the rules, I think, I'm fresh off of just winning against the core box of Lord of the Rings for the first time,
Okay.
and
Excellent.
I finally played it enough to where I was like I lost a bunch to the second scenario,
Mm-hmm.
and then I figured out a good deck finally, and then I won, and it was a great experience.
Yeah.
And that's actually part of the impetus of like why I made that video on my channel saying like the current environment isn't what I want and that I would prefer the reset
Yeah.
was because like I had such a good time playing Lord of the Rings, partly because I wasn't worried about like all these rules, interactions and stuff, and I was questioning every decision I made because I had no idea if I was doing anything correct. So like but in Marvel Champions when I play now, even if it's a brand new scenario, I'm never really questioning myself of like, was this the correct order to
Right.
play my cards in? Was I should I have played um uh, should I have played an event or should I have played helicarrier here? Like that part is just that part of the game is not new to me anymore, which is sad.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other part is the rules because the rules from what my perspective is the game was designed to be simple.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at Lord of the Rings, when I look up Lord of the Rings, there's like this diagram that I have to follow where there's like a million different steps, and then I
Yeah.
have action windows.
Yes.
And then I can do the action windows there, but nowhere else. And that's super clear to
Mm-hmm.
me. But also, for my first, I don't know, 10 to 20 games, I have to have the rule book open,
Yeah.
staring at it while I'm playing. And I think they wanted to avoid that with Marvel Champions by just
Mm.
saying, oh, yeah, we'll just have like, it just is a response. So instead of needing to respond in a certain action window where you have to look up the rule book, you can just play your card and not worry about it and not ruin your immersion in the game by having to glare at a rule book while you're playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's so clear with the action windows.
Yeah.
And then the response and interrupt timings, and especially when not everything is um, consistently worded and
Mm.
multiple things are triggering and there's not the timing chart in there, I think unfortunately it ended up making more problems than it fixed for experienced players.
Mm.
Because like the new player that grabs the core box, I don't think that they're playing against Rhino and they're worried about the timing of things. I think that
Right.
most people that grab this game that aren't like the super engaged audience that's been here forever that's now probably watching this video, I don't think they care if retaliate triggers first or your defense
Yeah.
interrupt or defense response triggers first. I don't think that that matters to them. But then there is the players that are still around like care about that a lot,
Mhm.
and it was really messy. And then also there are a subset of players that I think both of us have seen, because I've seen it multiple times as well, where a new player is like, "Oh, I just got the game. I got a victory. But did I do it wrong? Does it
Yeah.
count?"
Yep.
And then I've seen it happen where like they get sad because they're like making rules mistakes, and that personally, like I would never have made that post. Like
Hmm.
I wouldn't.
Just
It's
live in
not my first
ignorance.
thought. Yeah, it wasn't my first thought when I got Marvel Champions to like, wait a second, what if I go into an online community so they can tell me that I did it wrong? I was not thinking that. But I'm not everyone. I've
Yeah.
seen so many times that that happens, and that new player that comes from a background of like they want to play the games correctly. I think
Hmm.
maybe what it was I wasn't super into the board game space as a whole yet.
Okay.
But then so like I came into it from like Yu-Gi-Oh and a little bit of Magic,
Hmm.
but I wasn't playing multiple games, and I was playing always with my friends. So
Yeah.
it never mattered if like we made rules mistakes, we just moved on.
Just have fun. Yeah.
But then just I can imagine someone that's like been actively engaged in other board game spaces and like is aware of how complicated rules can be, then they come in and they want to do it correctly here.
Hmm.
And it's unfortunately just really, really difficult, especially when you go from the jump from rules reference that comes in your core box to rules reference 1.6. Like that disparity, there's no like what is it? There's no preparation for that.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
like the player base that was there the whole time was like, okay, 1 to like 1.2 to 1.3 to 1.4, and we got kind of eased into it.
Hmm.
And for me personally, I didn't get eased into it because I jumped from um nothing to 1.5 slash YouTube telling me I'm doing everything wrong. So like that was my experience, was like, okay, I've just been playing off this little book I have, and then using the Grim rule to say things are work don't work for me.
Yeah.
And then I get on it. I have a distinct memory of, I think it was Ziggy telling me that, oh, you can't have two energy channels out when you're playing Captain Marvel because that's max one per player. Like I never checked that
Yeah.
as a
It's like, why would I
player
look
because
at
like
that?
from my perspective, it's like, what, I have two of them. Why would I not be allowed to play both of them? It's like there was just like that
Yeah.
wasn't on my mind at all
Yeah.
when I was playing, and then then if I didn't like, I don't expect people to like the game as much as me too, though,
Yeah.
as well. If I didn't have the motivation I had to like act to just keep playing and keep learning and keep trying to figure all this out, I never would have learned all the rules of this game.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's just so many. And I've seen new players come in and they message me and they go, why would anyone play protection? And I was like, well, it's got some interesting rules, how it works. And they're like, wait, what are you talking about? And I keep forgetting that they have the 1.0 rules where it wasn't until 1.4 when protection got a huge buff that like playing defense events actually counts as defending. They're like, they would keep telling me like, what you're saying isn't true. And I'm like, no, it is. Like, I'm pretty sure about this. And they're like, here it is in the rules. And they take a picture of the rule book. I was like, oh, yeah, no, you need to be online, which is another tricky thing to telling people like, in order to check your rules, you can't even check the book that's online. You have to go online to check the book that's the newest version and make sure you don't find an old one. So there's just, I have a big issue with the rules, and I 100% agree with you too when you stated that Tony's done a better job of being concise about the words on his cards, because Caleb and Boggs have a tendency to like not use the same words to mean the same thing on their older cards. So it just, you question it now. Like when I play older scenarios, there's certain times things will come up, and I'm just like, I'm not 100% sure what they're referencing here. Like, I think I know what it is. I used to know what it is, but nowadays I'm not really sure anymore because of how that wording is. So I really, that's my biggest worry moving forward, because I want that to be like cleaned up and figured out.
Yeah.
So that's the end of my negatives. Now, were there any that I didn't mention that you were like, D20? How could you not mention this one thing? This one huge thing. I can't believe you missed it.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that was quick.
But well, I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it while you were giving me some time. The I it's not really a problem with the current environment necessarily.
Mhm.
It's a problem that I foresee of people telling other people that they're playing the game wrong.
Mm,
Like in the online space specifically, of being like, well, that doesn't count because you were doing legacy, or oh no, that doesn't count because you were doing current environment.
yeah.
And like I really don't think that should be an issue.
but it will be.
but I think it will be, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, like, I don't know what to do about that because, like, from the designer's perspective, it's like,
Not their problem. So
what do I have? Why do I have to? I don't think it's their fault
no.
that
Yeah.
some people are just going to be rude to other people online, saying that what they did didn't count for XYZ reason. But
I
there's that's a problem that I foresee.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've had a few people like, because I've made a video where I was like, I'm only playing Legacy. Like, I don't see myself ever really playing current except to test out like a new hero or a new deck. Because most part, I'm gonna play what I feel like playing. And I've had a bunch of people be just like, I'm not gonna watch your channel then because like I want to see the current environment. And I was like, oh, stinks. Like, I'm sure somebody else will do it. I'm sure a new channel will come up that's called Current Environment and Marvel Champions, and they'll do all the current stuff and go support them.
That's
But it's
really
just,
funny because I think I'm going to do current environment, but not post gameplay videos.
So you can have all my views. You can have them all. I'll just do all legacy stuff. So, all right, that's our negatives. That's us being negative. Let's end this video with negative some more. No, I'm just kidding. Let's end this while being positive and talk about the good things. I'll let you go first, and then if there's anything that you missed that I had on my list, then I'll follow up.
Yeah, so I mentioned to you before this that I just played a 4-player game with Lord Havoc and Joshy of Smeg and my name Jeff
My name's
on
Jeff.
Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the Silk deck I was playing was completely broken to the point where Hulk didn't. Hulk got double limitless strength plus Hulk smash as the first player when Kang was tough.
Perfect.
Yeah, so Hulk was like, okay, not only did Hulk not get to do any damage, but um but Hulk smash and both of the triple resources are gone.
Yeah.
Like that was brutal.
Yeah.
And then the Lord Havoc was playing Peter Parker with a like Black Cat Voltron deck in
Hmm.
leadership where there was like 5 different allies he was trying to do.
Hmm.
Didn't get a single ally, got every single one of his double resources and nothing to play it on. And then Jeff was playing a Nick Fury deck that was just it was a build up deck.
Hmm.
So it was a thing where he's trying to set up like an overkill engine. So he just wasn't powerful at the beginning. And I was like, "Oh no. We're and they wanted to play expert." So I was like, "Oh no, we are going to lose." But my Silk deck just kind of was it was so broken that we like annihilated King.
Wow.
It was dangerous for a second where we
Yeah.
almost lost the threat. And then like turn 3 roughly, the Silk deck I was playing I was cycling through my whole deck every single turn with how much card draw I was getting because I was able to set up like Avengers Mansion and Nick Fury and Moon Girl in one way or another and all the Web Warriors leaving play over and over again. And I had so many upgrades out that my deck was like 20 cards and I was going through like almost my entire deck every single turn.
My
And
God.
like and there was a couple turns where I actually went through my deck like 1.5 times towards the end of the game.
That's
And
nuts.
that was fun for that scenario where like everyone got a horrible hand and my deck was able to carry.
Yeah.
But in solo and 2-player and even 3-player, to me it's like why would I play that deck?
Hmm.
Because it's like at a certain point it's like okay, the engine's set up, it's game over.
Yeah.
And it's not a problem with one specific card.
Hmm.
It's not like, oh, if you just remove Nick Fury, it's done. If you just remove Professor X, it's done. If you just remove the Peter Parker Web Warrior ally, it's done.
Yeah.
That's not the problem. It was the combination of all of those things together that did that. And I did it because I just was like people were doing for fun decks and they wanted to play expert and it was good that I did that. And also
Mhm.
Joshua was like, "Oh, I really want to see you play that Silk deck because like I want to see how broken it can be."
Yeah.
So it was part of that. So like I was doing that strong deck on purpose to like just share to with Joshy like how strong it was, as well as like it was really nice that when they got horrible hands that it was that deck was there because we would have lost immediately. But yeah, because it's like I think I want to be clear about this too that it's not that I'm saying that I can't play another deck. I
Hmm.
can limit my card pool myself and try to find interesting combos elsewhere. But that doesn't mean that it's not detracting from my experience by always knowing in the back of my head, like, oh, yeah, well, I have to ignore
Ah,
all of
yeah.
this really good stuff. It makes exploring it less interesting because because there's a certain like enjoyment that you get when you find something
Hmm.
new that is like, oh, this is really good and I didn't know about it and it's the best strategy I've come up with so far.
Yeah.
Like that feeling was so fun for me in the Lord of the Rings game where what I did worked and I was like, wow, I finally figured out something good enough to beat this and it's the strongest deck I've ever made.
Hmm.
And now it's like that part of the game, if I'm having to like ignore certain things, is gone. But the current environment for me is like, okay, I have like a facilitated way to where I'm not the one limiting myself here.
Ah,
There's
okay.
actually a new environment for me to explore and try to figure out all of these things in all over again.
Hmm.
So I can, it's like my deck building outlook can now be refreshed by the current environment to where I have a new puzzle to solve.
Hmm.
Whereas before it's like there's a solved puzzle and then everything else is like, oh, well, is it actually as good as what I did before? Probably not. And that's
Right.
a bad feeling to me about the current setup. And something I'm really looking forward to the current environment fixing is that.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. I mean, that is probably the best case to make for the current environment of cycling out cards. Is that I am not a fan of self-limiting self. Like I don't like that idea because like if I paid for the cards and I sleeve the card and if I paid for storage for the card and I pay for all this stuff for the card, I should want to play the card. Like it just seems weird to me that I would force myself not to play cards because it was not designed properly. Like and that's not me really knocking on the designers, even though it kind of sounds like it. But it's just like it's I get it. It happens. It's whatever. But that's not my fault. So why would I limit myself in that thing? Like I bought it, so I'm going to use it. So I think I think you're right. That is the best way to look at the current environment. It's like it's going to do like a very soft, like kind of refresh of the game kind of consistently, you know?
Yeah. Because that's funny what you mentioned of like, it's not fun for you limiting yourself on your deck building.
Mhm.
But now you're not the one limiting yourself
Exactly. Yeah.
if you choose to look at it that way. So
Yeah.
that's something that I'm really happy with for the current environment.
Mhm.
And another thing I'm really happy with is I think that it will be enjoyable for me to go back and forth between the legacy and the current environment.
Okay.
So for like the heroes that I think are weaker, like legacy, Thor and Hulk and stuff like that,
Mhm.
like that's an area where it's like, okay, yeah, I am trying to find all the broken things I can with these characters and they can exist in this space that's different and maybe I can even pair that up with a stronger hero that's in the current environment when
Mhm.
I play. And I think that could be like really cool. It'd technically be a legacy game because I have legacy cards or whatever, but
Right.
I think that it's really fun with the idea of like the weaker heroes have legacy available to them and it makes them like able to compete with newer heroes
Okay.
that don't have access to those combos anymore.
Yeah.
And then also, I think there will be a fun middle ground to where there are going to be characters I imagine that I'm debating on like, do I want to? Is it more fun for me to play this in current environment, or is it more fun to play this in legacy environment because there's like a line there?
Mhm.
So I imagine a lot of those characters will be really interesting for me, and I feel like that will be a very big positive for me.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good way of looking at it too, because I know we all sit there and say like, "Oh, the old heroes, they're super weak. Why would you play them?" Blah blah blah. But yeah, there's a way that because if their biggest concern with the environment and the current environment is that oh, there's too many broken combos, then it's like you're right. Then the quote unquote weak heroes can exploit those combos now, and they're probably going to get even stronger as time goes on. So why not let them go nuts? Why not let Hulk just be crazy, and just have like fun at the end of the day?
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. To think of another current environment thing because I am looking forward to the current environment.
I have one
Um,
for you if you want one. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
all right. So I have a weird thing where I think 3 for 8 damage, right, from the swinging web kick is actually too strong. I think it's something that they're actively trying to get away from because there's very few heroes that do 3 for 8 damage anymore. They do like 3 for 7, and then like there's a way to like boost it a little bit, or they do like 2 for 4, and then like maybe there's add-on things you can do. So I feel like we always set the standard at 3 for 8 damage, and everything recently has kind of been weaker than that, with the exception of a couple of things. I'm actually happy that they would get away from 3 for 8 because it's kind of a little overpowered and like makes your strategy a little boring. Because like when I get that card, okay, I want to hold 1 or 2 of those cards, especially as a solo player, and then like get ready to flip them and then play those cards. And on most villains, I can get pretty close to defeating them with those 2 cards. So the strategy gets kind of like redundant and repetitive. But when you have heroes that like are 2 for 4 and they have the ability to do an extra 2 or draw a card or pierce or whatever, it adds more strategy to the game. And I think that if we get out of this mindset, and I do think it takes like kind of this soft reset to get out of that mindset that like, well, it's not 3 for 8. Well, yeah, maybe it's never going to be 3 for 8 again. And then we can draw a line and say, after this line, there is no more 3 for 8 unless it's something like super powerful, right? And they do like a 3 for 7 with the +2. Like I think because Silk has that where she can go up +2 on her 3 for 7. So it makes her a 3 for 9. Like there are like
Yeah, with
rare
overkill
exceptions.
stuff.
Yeah, I mean, she's dirty. We could talk about Silk sometime because her ceiling is so incredibly high. It's nuts. But I think that that shift away from that will be really, really nice, just like from a community standpoint and just for like me mentally as well.
Yeah, I do agree with that because the play pattern of okay, now the villain's gone
Hmm.
isn't that's the thing that's been bothering me with the legacy environment for a while. The last few games I played with my friends, I was talking about it of like, wow, the first like 3 to 4 turns of this game were really fun,
Hmm.
and then we won,
Yeah.
but we had to play it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, because it's like once you get your economy set up and you know that you can just do like I don't know, each player can easily with like good decks get up to 30 to 40 damage.
Hmm.
It's like that's the villain's just gone
Yeah.
at that point. And it's no longer it feels like I have to go through the motions currently with how things are set up and not like I'm thinking about my turns anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, okay, I got my economy set up. I have a steady stream of like ways to survive by either like thwarting and flipping down or having an ally each turn. And then I know that like in 2 turns the villain's gone because I can guarantee my damage to be that because
Yes.
I draw into whatever. And that play pattern that like Shuri has where it's a bunch of chip damage everywhere
Hmm.
is I think a lot more interesting because it's harder to just it's harder outside of the legacy environment to just delete the villain
Right.
like that because like with legacy environment like there's still a lot of ways just in the aspects to do that, but
Mhm.
I like that pattern of like okay when I actually flip Green Goblin to the next side I can't just rely on my 40 damage combo anymore. I
Yeah.
actually have to deal with those 3 encounter cards and it's going to get messy again.
Yeah.
Like that type of play pattern I'm looking forward to, and with the current environment um bringing that down, and also yeah the because the highest damage characters in the game that I think of are like Star Lord and like Deadpool
Hmm.
and like Wolverine and stuff like that, to where they just really easily just delete villains. And
Yeah.
the newer heroes minus Silk, but she's supposed to be like an evolution of Peter Parker. So she has that
Kind of
same
makes
play
sense.
pattern,
Yeah. Yeah.
except she has way more thwarting. Like her thwarting is absolutely ridiculous in her
She's
kit.
just insane. She's insane.
But yeah, so she breaks that mold a little bit.
Hmm.
But characters Shuri just came out. Nick Fury, he has really good minion control, but not super good burst damage on the villain,
Hmm.
which is interesting. And like Magneto came out, Nightcrawler came out. Um, inside their kits, it's not like you don't have 2 to 3 different copies of cards that can guarantee you your 16 to 20
Yeah.
damage just from those cards,
Yeah.
which I think that is a really big positive.
Yeah. Yeah. That one is one I'm really excited for. And then the other one I was kind of thinking of was I, this a lot of people are looking at the negatives of this, and I get it, because I also have looked at the negatives of this. But let's be positive about it as well. Is that there are some janky old heroes, right? I mean, I just had a video go out about Hawkeye. Hawkeye's a little rough. He's a little rough. I like Hawkeye as much as the next person. I think he's really cool. I think Clint Barton's a really cool character. I really like Jeremy Renner. Like I like all of it, but he has some issues. And it'd be really nice to get like a better version of Hawkeye, right? Someone that can like maybe find the arrow in his quiver instead of just like happening to like just barely kind of find the arrow in his quiver, right? You can say the same with Hulk, right? Obviously, Hulk is generally rated pretty low by the community. It'd be nice to get a redone Hulk that's done properly. I know there's been a lot of focus on the Captain America side of things and like the Doctor Strange, like why would they get redone? But if you focus on kind of janky heroes, or most people believe to be janky, like it'd be nice to get like a proper version of them from everything they've learned so far. And to tie that back in with the damage stuff, they could go nuts with Hulk's damage. I think it could be really, really fun because yes, 18 is nuts, but like nowadays, Hulk would probably have piercing and overkill on it, like for the most part on that Hulk smash. So it would just be stuff like that that they would have added on at this point that they didn't really think about because piercing wasn't as big of a thing, back then.
Yeah, 'cause every time I played Hulk the other day,
Mm.
and it was so painful. It was just like it was because like the battle I'm fighting when I'm playing Hulk is like I need to play one card this turn that has a useful output in a direction, and like that's the fight that I'm playing when I'm playing Hulk. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's really sad because that's a fantastic point of because I've seen like what you said of like why we do Doctor Strange or Captain America, but for me that's a big positive because like I like Doctor Strange and Captain America, and
Mhm.
I would like to have another one.
Yeah.
Like I would not be upset at all if I have another version of Captain America, Doctor Strange, and Peter Parker, and Hulk, and Captain Marvel. Like I would not be upset about that. I'd
Yeah.
be super happy to like see like a Captain Marvel that comes out and is like built around like the binary stuff that she does in the comics. That
Hmm.
would be awesome. Or like a Peter Parker that's like maybe has the symbiote suit on inherently,
Yeah.
or all of those different things could be so cool. Or like maybe a Captain America, but from like before he got frozen,
Hmm.
and he's just like that older, the like newer version of him, and he like has like I don't know, maybe he has like a motorcycle.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just so many different. It doesn't have to be the same exact character,
Mhm.
and I'm really looking forward to that because I do like those heroes and that problem that they have, which is real. Of I guess that's the other thing is like I just moved
Mhm.
to like a new area. I've been trying to find a place that has Marvel Champions, and I've called around all the local game stores. I'm not in like a remote area. I'm in like right by a big city,
Mhm.
and I can't find a single place that stocks Marvel Champions and has Marvel Champions events.
Yeah.
So like from that perspective, it's like, yeah, something needs to be done because no one is stocking the game anymore. Like I
Mhm.
I cannot find a community to play Marvel Champions with where I live.
Yeah. That's
It's like
nuts. Yeah.
obviously that's a huge problem. It's
Mhm.
like something has to be done for that to be fixed. And
Mhm.
if the result of that is it has to be that like you get a brand new version of these super popular characters and like this new thing and this like again like I think that was a real thing that they were talking about of like the shelves are too full and the stores can't handle stocking like 8 different hero packs
Mhm.
that don't ever get sold
Mhm.
anymore. It's like I think that the prospect of fixing that to where I can go to my local game store or just one local game store around me that has Marvel Champions and has an event, and I can just go sit down and like play a campaign with someone
Yeah.
is a huge thing that I think would be great.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. If that's what, like, again, I'm not the biggest fan of them doing this environment, but if it leads to the overall success of the game, and I mean, obviously, it's more, as people have called it, it's more of like a TCG move, is what they're like basically emulating here. Well, TCGs are really popular, right? They're everywhere, and you can't get away from them. So if that's the case of Marvel Champions moving forward, okay, like yeah, I want the game to survive and thrive. So I really hope it does with that environment and whatnot. So.
Never
Um,
been in a city where I couldn't play Magic the Gathering.
right? Yeah. I live in the middle of nowhere. And you know what? I could probably find a barn around here that's playing Magic the Gathering. So
Yeah, like I really want that going forward.
Mhm.
'Cause I ultimately that's what I want is I want as many people playing this game that I really like
Yeah.
as possible.
Yeah.
And I do think that the current environment like has the potential to bring more people into the game
Mhm.
and give something new to old players and bring in new players. So I
Mhm.
think that's what I'm hoping for it at least.
Yeah. I enjoy your positivity on that. So, the last thing I'll say as far as good that I have is I know I just ranted about the issue with the rule book, but on the flip side, if they fix my rule book problems and they go, no, 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 this is the new rule book moving forward, right? If because allegedly the next thing coming up isn't a scenario box or scenario pack or a hero box or whatever. Apparently, it's something different, which I have my thoughts. I think I know what it is, but regardless, if it's like if it comes with like a new unified rule book that's like, hey, this is Tony's game now. We're switching up the rule book. This is the rule book moving forward. Then and we slimmed it down, we cut it like at least by half, and it's streamlined, and we're gonna focus on the current environment. It's gonna have consistent wording on the cards. Like as designers, we're gonna focus on that. Like if that happens, like 80% of my Marvel Champion problems are like solved overnight if they just do that, which would be awesome, right? Like it would just be such a feel good thing overall. So I'm hopeful that even though I have all these issues with the rulebook and it if they don't redo parts of it, it's going to become a bigger issue, I think. But I hope that they have seen that, and I know they're working on future rulebooks. That hopefully that they will have a new version of the rulebook to rule them all, which will just be slimmed down and just like straight to the point. And the current environment allows them to say, okay, the wording on these cards, this is how it's going to be moving forward, and the rule book will reflect that. So we don't have to worry about a rule book that tries to fix all the wording from old cards.
Yeah, like I guess rulebook 2.0
Mm-hmm.
that okay, I'm sorry, but 80% of these heroes are retired,
Mm-hmm.
but there's 20% of the heroes left that actually do work like as intended, and now we have a rule book that functions going forward with
Yeah.
simplified mechanics. And if you're playing the older heroes, then just use 1.6.
Use Legacy Rulebook. That's what they can call it. Legacy Rulebook. That's what it is, and we retired it, but that's how you play it with that. Or you choose your rules, right? Choose it however you want to play, like whatever.
Yeah, I really hope that could happen because I think it would be a pretty hefty price to pay in
Mm-hmm.
the sense of like how many characters you might have to remove from the current environment to make that new a real like complete revamp to how everything works.
Mm-hmm.
But if it does get a revamp and then there is a facilitated way with the legacy environment to play it and the new cards that come out, it's not like they say like I don't know, like hero what's the different hero turn
Mm-hmm.
deal 3 damage. They're still hero actions and all
Right.
that stuff. They're not changing those terminologies, but now it's a different framework
Mm-hmm.
and that you can still use those with your legacy heroes. That
Mm-hmm.
would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer of like if there's something wrong, you rip the band-aid off and you just fix it moving forward instead of just like slowly patching it to fix it. Like that's just how I am as a person, so that's how I look at it. I know people don't agree with that, but that's just who I am. So like that's why like yeah, I'd rather take early pain with a new because I don't have to play that new rule book, right? So I'd rather take early pain with this new rule book kind of like messing everything up from the past, but moving forward like we're golden, right? Like everything's simplified, everything's streamlined. It gets people into the game nice and easy. I'll be happy with that because again, like I was saying, I'll just pull up the 1.7 rule book and then just be like this or 1.6, sorry, and be like, this is my rule book for the legacy stuff. That's what I'll focus on, and maybe I'll just dabble in the new book now and again. Who knows?
Yeah, and maybe the new one just makes so much sense that you never have to look anything up.
Exactly. Maybe it's just better, right? It just it'd be just nice to not have to open that rule book every 10 seconds. And be able to find things easier. Because there's even times on stream when someone asks a question, I'm like, huh, it's a good question. And I spend 20 minutes just trying to figure out where it would be in the rule book because it's not indexed very well. Because it's like a really out there question. And then that becomes a whole big thing and ugh, whatever. So that's my last like thing that I think would be really good about it.
Yeah.
Do you have any more?
I don't know. I guess maybe we can end just by summarizing all the things that we could possibly get out of the current environment, because we no one knows how it will work yet because it hasn't
Mm-hmm.
happened yet.
Yeah.
But the potential good it could do is it could create a um a new rule book that's simpler to where new players don't have this massive barrier to entry, and old players don't have to be worried about stressed about sub bullets on
Mm.
page like 80.
Yeah.
Like that would be nice. Like that would be amazing if that was the case.
Mm-hmm.
And then it can fix a lot of the balance issues to open up deck building space for both legacy and current environment, to where
Mm-hmm.
legacy heroes have a deck building space that is also still expanding, but also current environment has a deck building space to where you have a more like varied card pool that you'd consider using,
Mm-hmm.
which that could be awesome. And then another positive thing we could get out of it is we could get really cool versions of old heroes. Like,
Yep.
I don't think that anyone would be against a new version of Hulk coming out
Right.
that just is strongest one there is
Yeah.
at dealing damage
Yep.
and just staying alive. But like he doesn't have to thwart super good, but like that Hulk fulfilling his fantasy of being strongest one there is something that I would like going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And then just getting different takes on old characters is a positive.
Yeah.
And then probably the biggest thing that I'm hoping it can fix is I'm hoping that it means that when I go to a local game store, I can find Marvel Champions and I can play it with people and I can share the game with a community of people, which I've missed out on
Yeah.
because I came in around Next Evolution, and when I was going around to game stores, it was like, oh yeah, we stopped doing that 3 months ago or whatever. That was I kept hearing that over and over. It's like I've been to one Marvel Champions event
Yeah.
the whole time I've been playing, and that's really sad for me. And
Yeah.
I want for myself and everyone else to be able to go to a local game store, see it on the shelf, pick up a pack, and then sit down and play an event.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. If all those things happen, 100% for it, and we can be hopeful that it will. And I mean, it's all, and I think realistically too, what we're saying here too isn't like these far flung ideas. I mean, they are very realistic things that can be done with Marvel Champions, which I think is the nicest part. Especially, let's fix Hulk and Hawkeye, please. For love of God, I want to play them more often.
Yeah.
All right, so do me a huge favor if you all haven't done it yet. Make sure you hit the. Oh, I had check D20's episode. Oh, I messed up on that slide. Oh well, you all know what it
I
means.
forgive you.
As you should. It's really Daring. Daring Lime is the new D20. He's just much better at this than I am. So, but make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. Let us know what we're wrong about, what we're right about, all that fun stuff. We'll be at Daring Lime's channel next. So make sure you go hang out over there and subscribe to his channel because we kind of teased a few things of what you might be seeing on his channel next time. Maybe you'll see it, maybe you won't. I don't really know. But Daring Lime, appreciate you being here, dude. Thank you so much.